Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I hope you guys are having a great Sunday wherever you are. Hello, hello. I know this is quite of one of my a very impromptu podcasts. So, thank you for hanging out with me, and those of you who can. See some of our squaddies in the chat. Hello, Lydia, awesome moderator, and Laris Fraser. Laris, have I seen you here before? Did I just miss you somehow? But I'm happy you're here. Hello. Thank you, Lydia, for reminding everyone to please, as you're coming in, please click the like, share button. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Go ahead. And if you're able, definitely join our 2 Cents crew. Thank you, Lydia. Fancy, hello. And Nala Thendu here joining us from South Africa. Hello, Nala Thendu. And our awesome moderator, Karen M., is in the chat as well. And Dorothy, hello, Dorothy. And Sherry Ware is here. And Lola Love is here. Hello, guys. Perlina and Dansburg. One is here. Karen Warner, hello. Happy Sunday. Judy is here. Hello, Judy. How do you say your last name, Judy? Muktasad? I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. So please do give me a phonetics. That would be great. And hopefully I find it in the chat. It goes by so fast sometimes. I think I have to put a kind of a limit on the chat. Not limit, but sort of like space it out a little bit. So the chat, what you say doesn't fly by me really so fast. So I can see some of it. Mara is here. Hello, Mara. And Little Mac is here. Hello, and all of our other friends will say hello to as we go along. And hello to some of you who are here, but not necessarily in the chat. That's fine as well. Hello. So what is going on? Our faves are quiet. I mean, I haven't been on Twitter in the last, I think, couple of hours. So who knows? Things change over there really fast. So don't know. But so far they have been very quiet, and that's how we like it. Just until you're showing us some of your work, no need to give the especially British press anything to be talking about. Let them focus on the others on Shutter Island. But as with everything what they do, anytime they focus on, or at least try to focus on the others, they tend to bring in this especially Meghan's name. So and it's just like, can y'all just have a birthday or a celebration or a Christmas card or whatever and not include Meghan's name in it? I mean, goodness. Let the others sort of try to shine on their own. You don't need to add Meghan's name to everything you do. But it seems without Meghan's name, they can't sell anything. So hence, and they know if they put Meghan's name in there, people are going to jump on whatever it is they publish, an article or whatever, and try to yell at them for doing it, or try to match up the two and all of that stuff, all of which gives them attention, all of which sell their newspapers. So, hey, that's their model, I think, going forward. And I guess until we stop clicking on it and all of that stuff, then they will stop. But as long as people are clicking on it and venting their outrage for using Meghan's name, then they will continue as they've been doing forever. But our faves they've understood the assignment. They are home or wherever they are in this world. I have no idea. Doing whatever it is they're doing. I would assume preparing for Christmas in whatever way they are. So yeah, and it's so funny. Goodreads, if you read a lot, I'm sure Goodreads pop up there. They always recommending books and all of that stuff. So they did their year-end best memoir, and so Britney Spears, The Woman in Me, won. Spears number 2. And then Page Boy, I don't even know what. Age by Elliot Page, I guess. I don't know if you know who this is. She is, or he, or never mind. Elliot was a girl and now she's a boy. She's transgender. I cannot think and speak at the moment. And so he wrote a book, and so that's number 3. And so that's behind Spare, and that's behind The Woman in Me and Spare. So yeah. And again, with Elliot, what I was trying to remember when she was a girl, her name was Ellen Page. So you might remember him as when he was a girl as Ellen Page. Now he's transgender, so now it's Elliot Page. So just to clear up so you know who it is I'm talking about there. Couldn't remember in a moment what the name was. But anyways, and so Spare is number 2. And yeah. I would, I have not read. I actually have Woman in Me in my Audible, but I'm actually finishing up Scobie's book. So when I'm done with Scobie's book, I'm going to be reading or at least listening to Woman in Me. I always love Britney Spears, so it's just like, oh, okay, it'd be really cool. Again, everyone says it's amazing. It's narrated by Michelle Williams, I think her last name is, the actress. And so everyone is saying the audio is amazing. How she embodies Britney. So yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if you guys have read it. So if you have, let me know what you think. So yeah. Judy. Oh, wait, Judy saw me. Judy, okay, so Muqtasid. Oh, okay. Thank you, Judy, for the phonetics of your name. So it's Judy Muqtasid. Thank you. It's like, blessed be everyone. And thank you so much for your donation. I appreciate it. Thank you. So now I know Muqtasid. There you go. Appreciate it. What else is going on with our faves? Again, we just wanted to stay silent. But other stuff is going on, as we know. This actually, a couple of days ago, Harry has a bunch of different lawsuits, as we know, going on in the UK against the Daily Mail. There are 2 sets of them going on with the lawsuits against the Daily Mail. And then there's the Mirror, and then there's the Sun. And of course, there is the Security. Well, this one with the Daily Mail is involved both the security. This is the security part with the government, and also including the security part where the Mail had said that that he was trying to hide the fact that he was trying to get his security and get people to pay for it, and Harry sued them for libel. And so this court is going on, and I think Harry was trying to get a summary judgment, and the judge was like, no, this can go ahead to trial, and that the Mail basically have a case that they can possibly win their case, and that Harry doesn't have much of a chance to basically prove that he, that the Mail, whatever. Let's read it. I am not the biggest legal person. Leslie, you here to rescue me? Where's Leslie? I was like, this is when I was like, I need Leslie, but Leslie isn't here. At least she's not here right now. So hopefully she'll jump in. And if I made a mess of it, which I probably am, so I'm going to let Leslie rescue me at some point whenever she comes here today, if she does. But I'm just going to read a little bit about it, just in case you're not up on it and it's a little bit much. And Royal Suitor on Twitter sort of tried to explain a little bit. So I'm going to just read it a little bit. So I'm just going to move my banner so that way I can read it properly. Where's that banner thing? Oh, here we go. All right. And I'm also going to move that brand thing as well. There we go. All set with this. Okay, so for the strike, it says Prince Harry's libel claim against the Mail on Sunday publisher must go to trial, the judge rules. The Duke of Sussex's lawyer, had tried to get the Mail's publisher's defense thrown out. But the judge has ruled the case should go to trial with a preliminary hearing to take place next week. So I think it's going to be on Tuesday that there's going to be a preliminary hearing for the case. And I'm assuming the trial is going to start at some point in 2024. Let's see. Over here on the right-hand side, it says the court must consider whether the claimant, which is Harry, has a realistic or opposed to a fanciful prospect of success. The criterion, real, CPR 24, is not one of probability, it is the absence of reality. So, and at the same time, the realistic claim is one that carries some degree of conviction. This means a claim that is more than merely arguable. And lots of lots is goes on. I mean, I can read it or I could just send it to you. But basically, let's see, in down in 6, I think that explains it a little bit better. It says, however, in reaching its conclusion, the court must take into account not only the evidence actually placed before it on the application for summary judgment, but also the evidence that can reasonably be expected to be available at trial. The court should hesitate about making a final decision without a trial, even where there is no obvious conflict of fact at the same time of the application, where reasonable grounds exist for believing the fuller investigation into the facts of the case would add to or alter the evidence available to the trial judge, and so affect the outcome of the case. It's a lot of stuff that I don't really understand, but Royal Suitor, I read that a few times and I'm still kind of blah, what does that mean? But Royal Suitor kind of explains it a little bit. She says, there's a high burden for the claimant in the summary judgment. Harry has to prove that the defendant doesn't have a snowball chance in hell of succeeding based on the legal argument. So it is not worth going to trial. A real chance of success is relative to a snowball. Meghan's lawyer, on her summary judgment win, had to convince the court that the Duchess's rights were so strong based on well-established legal principles that even if the male could prove all of its arguments, her right in law would still be stronger. By ruling that Harry's libel claim should go to trial, the judge believes a full investigation of the evidence and examination of witnesses could meaningfully impact the ruling. Summary judgment assumes that the male can prove its arguments. A trial forces it to actually do it. Prince Harry and A&L engaged in extended settlement negotiations before he filed for summary judgment, but were unable to reach an agreement. The case may still settle before trial, but Harry has lost some leverage with this ruling. So thank you, Royal Suitor, because I read that thing and I'm still like a little like, what? So basically, Harry kind of lost ground on this a little bit. Who knows what's going to happen. He can proceed if he wants to, but as Royal Suitor was basically saying that maybe trying to settle might be a better thing. According to where it stands now, there is very, very little in the way of, if he continues with the case, that he can possibly win. So who knows what's going to happen from here on in with this. And again, this is the libel case that when whether it's the government or the royal family released, because this was going on with nobody knowing, the case with Harry against the basically Home Office about his security, but no one knew, because it was going on since September 2021. Nobody knew it was happening until February or something like that of 2022, when someone either in the government or the royal family leaked it so that they could cover up for Prince Andrew's mess and Boris Johnson's mess and all the mess that's been going on. Somebody there leaked that information to cover it up, and then the Mail proceeded to claim that when Harry said no, I even offered to pay for the security, Mail was like, no, he's just lying. He's just saying that because he doesn't want people to know that, he wants the taxpayers to pay for his security and all that kind of craziness. So that's where this case is. And so it's just, but part of this whole case, more stuff has been revealed that we didn't know before. Well, some of it we knew, but some parts of it we didn't know, as, for example, a letter from the Queen that was basically, laid out the Queen's wishes for Harry and Meghan and their security. And Christian, so thank you to whoever posted this. As you know, Chris Ship blocked me, so I could never get his stuff anymore. But somebody posted this. Late Queen wanted Prince Harry to have effective security after the 2020 breakup summit at Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin. I'm thinking biblical here. Sandringham. Queen Elizabeth, the private secretary, wrote to the government saying it is of paramount importance that it is of paramount importance to her that Harry and Meghan get protection. And so some of the things that we didn't quite we didn't know, at least I didn't know this letter existed, but this was entered into evidence as part of the court case and revealed to reporters, I guess, on what is today, Sunday, I think Friday. And so this whole letter that basically is dictated to Mr. Young over here, Edward Young, that Harry basically called the bee, and so he obviously, we know that's the Queen's the Queen's private secretary. So this letter, it's so funny with this letter because some people are jumping on this letter like, see, Edward Young was advocating for Prince Harry and Harry doesn't like him and Harry said all this mean thing about. I was like, reading comprehension is really a lost art in a lot of ways. And so it's like, no, he was basically dictating the Queen's wishes, and basically it's, as is laid out, a letter to cover him and the Queens in case of any of this stuff, falling apart and going to pot, basically. And so it's basically a letter that says, okay, I'm going to cover myself if anything happened, that people would know. No, and for me, the Queen, it's so funny with this, because you know how I feel about Queen Betty. But in a lot of ways, and I understand why Harry and Meghan really always loved her and always supported her and always that's the only person they trusted in the royal household. And I could see why, because even though I know this letter is basically to cover, she has, whenever they have gone there, whether it's for her coronation or whatever, she has gone out of her way to make sure that they got the security that they needed, including her last coronation. I mean, her last Jubilee. And so, but this letter basically sort of lays out where the Queen stood on making sure that Harry and Meghan get their security. And so there are a couple of parts. I don't know if it's the whole letter, but these are the two parts that they share. During their time in the UK, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex expect to attend the public-facing engagements representing the charities and causes which remain dear to them. Their engagements would no longer be formally undertaken on behalf of Her Majesty, but given the high profile of the Duke and Duchess, we would expect that they will still attract public attention. In regards to the Commonwealth patronages, although the Duke and Duchess will not be formally representing Her Majesty, they will be undertaking work that is closely associated with Her Majesty and which may appear in the public eye to be very similar to now. Of course, a number of these patronages have been granted to them by Her Majesty, and which they will continue to actively fulfill. Her Majesty may, from time to time, invite the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to attend national royal occasion on their private capacity, and Her Majesty is likely to invite the Duke and Duchess to participate in family events in keeping with other non-working members of the royal family. Also, in terms of security, you will understand, and this letter is, again, to Mark Sewell. He's with the government, Sir Mark Sedwell. And so, again, part of the letter says, you will understand that ensuring the Duke and Duchess of Sussex remain safe is of paramount importance to Her Majesty and her family. Given the Duke's public profile by virtue of being born into the royal family and his military service, the Duchess's own independent profile and well-documented history of targeting of the Sussex family by extremists, it is imperative that the family continue to be provided with effective security. And of course, the family is mindful of the tragic incidents of the past. The discussion to date including with the former chairman of RAVEC, have been useful in making sure that the parameters of RAVEC's process are well understood. Of course, Her Majesty and her family recognize that these are independent processes and decisions about the provision and public funded security. I'm sorry, I just confused myself. Of course, Her Majesty and her family recognize that these are independent processes and decisions about the provisions of publicly funded security and are for the UK government, the government of Canada, and any other host government. The letter did not refer to the Sandringham offer. And so they presented this as part of the case where, again, the same libel case. And so the libel case, again, is about Harry, offering to pay for security at Sandringham. And so what is boiling down to, and what I think the judge is saying, that because Harry said he did it there, they're saying, well, you didn't offer it to basically in any communication with RAVEC. He hadn't. And so what Harry said in the beginning was he made the offer to pay at Sandringham, and they rejected it. And then in any communication between Edward Young and RAVEC, that was not communicated at all. And Harry was trying to figure out, well, why? And so, and people, and especially some in the press, are like, well, this is Edward Young advocating for him. And according to this part of this whole thing was found in the Telegraph, they're saying the letter didn't refer to the offer to basically to pay at Sandringham. And my comeback to that is, well, this letter doesn't include a whole lot of things, including the fact that this is, first of all, this is the Home Office laying out, basically what the Queen's wishes were, that Harry and Meghan get continued security. That was very clear to the Queen, wanting to make sure that they get continued effective security. And as we know, once again, as with every other thing, it seems that she wanted, especially when it comes to the Sussexes, Charles pulled away. That wasn't done. And also, too, in this letter is Edward Young not including in this letter that he is also sitting on RAVEC's committee. 3 of them at the palace, as we know, were sitting on RAVEC's committee. Because this is, if I were just looking at this letter and knew nothing about, what's going on in the makeup of RAVEC and all of that stuff, reading this letter, I would have no idea that this man is a part of making decisions about who gets security, the level of security, and that they have equal share in it with the government and the police. So that's also not a part of this letter. And so that's a couple of the big things. And again, I thought about Queen Betty, but for me, it was good to see. And now it sort of highlights, because I have always wondered, why Harry would not just say what the Queen's responsibility, like, why isn't she not, why didn't she really stand up as much as she really could, I think, within her power? But then in so many situations, you see that some things, for example, when the Lord, Chamberlain sent that horrible letter to Harry to withdraw Christian Jones's name from the letter before action, and he didn't do it. One of the things that was very clearly in there is that they did it without the Queen's knowledge. Like, she didn't know they did that. And then here again, she lays out that it is imperative that Harry and Meghan gets their security, and that didn't happen. And according to we were talking in previous episodes, that what came out in court in the judicial review part of this case is that RAVEC won that they didn't even follow their own procedures in their risk assessment procedures. That is a part of their guideline. And so there are so many different parts to this, and so many different ways of how they handled Harry, And so I'm like, well, no wonder, Harry, whether he wins or loses, whether it's this or the judicial review, stuff is coming out in this where it goes again. One went against what the Queen's wishes were. And they're all like, oh, the Queen, we respect the Queen. And I've said all along, none of these people respected the Queen. Harry even wrote in Spare that, they really, like Edward Young and King Charles, and whether it's Clyde Alderman, who is King Charles's private secretary, and Simon Case, they basically operated as if they were the monarch. And so you can see very clearly, it's like the Queen was very clear what she needed. It was very, very clear. And they didn't do it. And also, he was lying in this letter because, if the last part that I highlighted, it says, of course, Her Majesty and her family recognize that these are independent processes and decisions about provisions of public funded security are for the government and the other governments. This is a blatant lie because it's not independent at all. And this is part of Harry's case. That when he was speaking to them at Sandringham and offered to pay, he didn't know that the people he was speaking to were members of RAVEC. So he's talking to them as they're part of the royal household, not knowing that these people are part of RAVEC because they told him his was independent. And so when they say that Her Majesty and the family recognize these are independent processes, my question to that is, did Queen Betty know that they were a member of RAVEC? Because that's what this is basically saying. It's either she knew and he is lying about what she knew, or she literally didn't know that her private secretary, King Charles' private secretary, and the assistant private secretary were all part of RAVEC. Did she know? Did they tell her? Because according to this, she and the rest of the family supposedly didn't know. Harry certainly didn't know. But obviously Charles and William knew. Did the Queen know? That's my question. And if she knew, then this whole thing is a lie anyway, because as we know, it wasn't independent. And so it just, so they're, some part of the British press are trying to do like, no, see, Harry said what Harry said is false and it's misleading and all of that stuff, because Harry is, one there like, because this is saying that, no, they didn't take away the security. They just, Harry knew that they were just modeling it for just when he came to the UK. It's going to be on an as need basis. I'm like, what do you mean he didn't take away the security? He took away the security. He didn't have security in Canada, remember? And then they were trying to say like, oh, no, because they even were helping Harry to figure out how to get secure, and that Harry didn't. And I'm like, if you've watched Harry and Meghan docuseries, they're literally, everything that they said in their articles is exactly what Harry said. Nothing contradicts what Harry says. And so it's very interesting. I'm sorry, I'm just sort of blabbling on about Harry and this. I know some of it could be a little bit convoluted because some of the cases overlap and there are so many of them. I get confused trying to figure out what is what myself. But I think the whole thing of this is the Queen wanted Harry and Meghan to have security. They've always had a great relationship. With all the drama, in spite of all the people like, oh, the Queen hates Harry and Meghan. Harry and Meghan did all this stuff to the Queen. The Queen has always had their back, and in her limited way. And I have to believe if she had her way, that maybe she would have done much more, in terms of making sure that they were protected and a lot better than they were. But as we've seen, quite a few, in it, whether it's her saying, no, I want Camilla to be queen consort, and Charles is like, no, she's going to be called queen. And, or Queen giving Harry and Meghan, or, quote unquote, give them. I mean, they ended up paying for the Frogmore Cottage, but she's the one that offered it to them so they can have it in the first place. And then we see Charles take that away. We saw the Queen and her husband wanting to give, just outright give the Duke of Edinburgh title Charles, held it back and held it back and held it back until he knew that Edward is not going to pass that on to his son before he allowed him to have it. I don't know why you would take a title that, it's just for you and you can't pass it on. Like, I don't even know why Edward did that, but hey, whatever, that's them. Probably so desperate for a title. So I don't even understand that, but hey, whatever. And again, with this situation with Harry and Meghan, the Queen specifically stated, not only do they need to get security, they need to get adequate security. Security, not just, we'll just sort of, throw one your way and, as long as you're within this bubble and everybody else has security, you just sort of fall under. No, the Queen was very specific. They need to continue, very important. They need to continue to have adequate security as they had the adequate security before. And as we know in Canada, they pulled them. And so it's just very interesting. And so again, we've talked about this before about RAVEC, and I meant to change this little clip and then realized like, oh, I forgot. My big X on the side there. It's on that information is on the next slide. But I was like, I forgot to change this. And so for those of you who don't know about RAVEC is the organization that determines the security for high-profile people, whether it's the government, whether it's celebrities coming in, government officials from other countries coming in, and the royal family. And so this is a secret organization. Before Harry had to file the Freedom of Information Act, whatever the Freedom of Information thing, you file it in court to get information that they basically, whether it's a government or some company is hiding, you could file for that and get that information. Before this, nobody knew who was on RAVEC. No people, the majority of us didn't never even heard of RAVEC. It was always like, oh, no, it's the government that provides the security. They're the ones that decide who is going to get security. It's all the government. That's all people would know. Nobody knew about RAVEC, or at least very few people. The public definitely didn't really know about it. And worse yet, we didn't know who the people were in RAVEC who were making these decisions. And so it was always, no, it's the government, it's independent, it's the royal family do not decide who gets security. That is the government and the Metropolitan Police, that they're the ones that do it. Basically, it falls under Home Office. And at the time, Priti Patel was the leader, I guess, of the Home Office, whatever you call them, secretary, whatever they call the head of the Home Office. So the times when, right around when it all came out that Harry was doing the lawsuit against, it came out that Harry was doing the lawsuit against the government for, to do a review in basically to find out how they reached the decision to take away security. The last year, the Telegraph came out with this article, and it's funny, they came out with it with all the information about RAVEC, and then it promptly deleted it. And so I'm so glad there's this site that calls Presser is the only place you'll find this. You will not find it. And Telegraph has a way of doing that. Whenever there's something there that the royal family don't want, you will see that happen with a lot of Kate articles that they like the slightest criticism and the royal family don't want it. 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, that article disappears. So the Telegraph have a history of doing that, and the squad always catches them. But anyway, so this was an article that they wrote, that they put out there, and then it promptly disappeared. It says, so this is a little bit about RAVEC and how it's made up, who is responsible for making the decisions about security. It says the king, and so actually, this one was in October, right after the Queen died. Well, the Queen died in September. After the Queen died, so there was, because the houses were going to be shifting, and so people who were with the Queen probably were not going to get their job. Obviously, some of them shift over to King Charles, and some of them didn't. And so they're talking in this article about the changes that's going to happen. It says the King and the Prince of Wales' closest aides will play a central role in the future decision about the Sussex's security. It is expected that Sir Clive Alderton, the King's private secretary, will replace Edward Young, the Queen Elizabeth's private secretary, on the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, known as RAVEC. The late Queen's assistant private secretary could be replaced by Chris Fitzgerald, the King's deputy private secretary. Meanwhile, the master of the Prince's household will shortly be replaced by a senior aide for Prince William. The shift will not be a welcome one for Prince Harry, who is not close to Clyde Alderton. It comes amidst heightened tension between the Duke and his father and brother, who are barely on speaking terms, blah, 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 pending the release of Harry's memoirs and Netflix series and features extensive interviews with both the Duke and Duchess. Members of RAVEC, the important parts, members of RAVEC have traditionally been shrouded in secrecy, but the 10 figures whose job it is to make decisions on the level of protective security afforded to the members of the royal family and public figures are at particular risk were revealed in response to a Freedom of Information request. The chairman is understood to be Richard Mottram, a former permanent secretary in the Cabinet Office, alongside the 3 senior members of the royal household. Alongside the 3 senior members of the royal household, sits the chairman of the National Police Chief Counterterrorism Coordinator Committee and Deputy Assistant Commissioner of Special Operations at Metropolitan Police, the Director General of Homeland Security Group at the Home Office, and the Deputy Director of National Security Secretariat at the Cabinet Office. The Director of Protocol at the Foreign Office and the Head of Royalty VIP and MP Security Unit at Homeland Security Group are also on the committee. RAVEC terms of reference state that RAVEC's terms of reference states that Home Office and the police and the royal household are treated as equal partners. That is very important because people try to say like, oh, no, the royal family or the royal household have no say. The final decision, they don't make the final decisions on security in the royal family. And this is clearly saying RAVEC's term of reference states that the Home Office, the police, and the royal household are treated as equal partners. Everybody got a say. All of them have a say in the security decision. Their decisions are based on risk analysis conducted by the Royal Household's Secretive Risk Management Board, thought to be chaired by a private secretary. This part is very important because part of Harry's case is that the risk assessment that was supposed to happen with every case that is part of RAVEC's own policy, for the first time in their history, this did not happen with Harry. And that is part of Harry's case in the judicial review. It says their decisions are based on a risk analysis conducted by the Royal Household's Secretive Risk Management Board. That's right. That risk assessment that's supposed to be that they were supposed to do with Harry. The Royal Household is the one that does the risk assessment, and that risk assessment is thought to be chaired by one of the private secretaries, i.e., Clyde Alderton, Sir Edward Young, or Simon Case, which is those are the private secretaries for the royal household. One of them are the one conducting the risk assessment, deciding the level of security, if any, that Harry should have. And yet these people have led people to believe that they have no say in Harry's security. And meanwhile, they have more say than the rest of the members, because not only are they part of the RAVEC and they're deciding if and who to have security, they're also the ones that are deciding the level of the security. They're the ones that are doing the risk assessment. And they're the very ones that Harry's team is saying, There was no risk assessment done. There is no paperwork that there was a risk assessment done. And the people who are carrying out the risk assessment, the members of the royal family who basically kicked Harry out of the royal family. And it's just like, oh my gosh. And so that is really that is really the crux of the whole thing. I mean, you could read the rest of the article. It says, Home Office declined to provide details. Members are required to ensure VIP have trusted confidence in the security in which they are provided, while the chairman is responsible for communicating with VIPs and ensuring that the process is transparent to members. Yeah, that's what didn't happen. The committee meets at least 3 times a year, blah, 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 blah. So those are the very important thing is that, again, the narrative, which we kept posting this thing all over Twitter yesterday, the narrative has always been that the royal family have no say in their security. That is a blatant lie. That the RAVEC is independent. Another blatant lie. That, okay, so they're in RAVEC, but, it's only 3 of them and they don't have final say. That's another lie. They're equal partners with the rest of the people from Home Office and Metropolitan Police. Another lie. And not only is that a lie, is that, you would think there would be an independent part of RAVEC that would do risk assessment that didn't have anything to do with the royal household. Because, one, that's bias. If I don't like somebody, as you can see all through Spare with especially Sir Edward Young and his relationship with Harry, why would you have someone who have that kind of relationship with Harry do their risk assessment? Or at least one of the people doing risk assessment for somebody that they clearly don't have a good relationship with. Under no circumstances should the royal household be the ones to determine risk assessment for the that's ridiculous. That's crazy. And especially that we know, one of the Metropolitan Police, he forgot what his name, Basu or something like Neil Basu. I could be wrong, but I think his name is Neil Basu, who literally was he did an interview talking about the credible risk that was and all of the things targeted to the Sussexes. So for you to go through all of that stuff and knowing, you are part of Metropolitan Police and the Metropolitan Police is a part of RAVEC, knowing he even talked about the people, the neo-Nazis who are literally in jail for targeting the Sussexes. This letter from Edward Young even refers to they understood the risk because of past experience, i.e. with Princess Diana. So if you can have all of that information and still come up with, I am taking your security, and even as Harry said in the judicial review part, giving them 28 days before he goes to the UK and they're still saying no, or not giving him enough security or appropriate security, then obviously something is very wrong here. And so it's just, and so again, whether Harry wins this or loses, again, this is the UK. This is the UK. And and again, this is going against the king because obviously we know his people are the ones that pull the security. So there's no doubt who was the one that's responsible for Harry's security being where it was. And so will the judges do what is right? Questionable. Now, I don't want to, come and say, well, the judges are on the king's side, but I would be surprised basically if Harry wins any of this. I would be very surprised. But a normal person just looking at this knows, like, wait a minute, none of this makes sense. None of this matches up. And this is very much like, again, Harry has to, if he didn't know before and if he wasn't convinced before what happened to Princess Diana, I mean, this is very clear. This is very clear. I don't know that RAVEC was around when Princess Diana was her time, when she was there. I don't know if that's the organization that pulled her security. But if this is what this is in front of everybody's eyes, And you could understand why they pulled this article down, because now it's like, thank you for the person who saved it. Now that we know where all of this, and again, they have allowed the lie to be out there that the royal family has no say in who gets security. Because these are the same people that allowed Andrew to keep his security. So I think the next thing that needs to come out is how much the royal family pays for security. That needs to come out. Because I think all of this stuff being secret has allowed them to get away with stuff that no normal person would get away with. I mean, they get away with stuff that on a whole that people know what, people who weren't royals get away. But this, I mean, especially the fact that this stuff will cost people their lives. It has cost people their lives. Everything about the royal security needs to be, nobody wants them to be, no one wants them to be in danger, but I think the cost and all of that stuff, I don't know that that's putting anyone in danger. I think they keep saying, oh, because no, I think they just don't want people to know how much money that the taxpayers are actually paying for their security. And so a lot of this stuff needs to come out. And I don't even think that the sovereign grant stuff, I don't even think that the number that they're giving to the public I think it's higher. So I think all of this stuff needs to come out. I don't see why the cost of their security need to be and how that will endanger them. That's ridiculous. It's the same as they're saying that, oh, no, you're not supposed to know who in RAVEC and all of that stuff is secretive. No, this exposes the royal family's role in it. And it exposes that, wait a minute, none of this is fair. If I was in Harry's shoes, I would sue as well, especially when they were lying and saying that, oh, this is independent, and only to find out that the same people that have done nothing to, be all through the abuse of me and my wife, put myself in Harry's shoes, and they're the same people that are determining if I have security and the level of security. That's crazy. Everyone would fight back on this one. So again, whether Harry wins or not, who knows? I sure do hope he does. So yeah. Lola Love says, according to Jerry Weiss YouTube channel, Royal Family and Scapegoat, the narcissistic family has no empathy towards any family member. The head of the family must obey or else. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the monarchy, it just, I still don't understand why these people are there. I don't understand supporting an institution like this, especially when you didn't elect. It just sort of is there, sucking up the money yeah. Anyway, unbelievable. Diane Hawkins says the first discovery should be to explain why not covering the Sussex security and not allowing him to pay for it is not racist. Explain that or shut up. Yeah. And I mean, yeah. Thank you, Diane. I was thinking something and then it went out of my mind, so never mind. But I mean, I don't know that could be, if you're thinking in terms of legally, I don't know that could be something they could prove legally. I don't know. But I mean, looking at it, it's obvious, what part of that is. So yeah. Part of it, racism, part of it is, as we were just looking at earlier, is this: you don't do what I say and I will take your security. I.e., we've looked at, especially with the Byline Times article, when it's talking about, not pulling Christian Jones' name from that letter before action. And again, this whole mess would not happen if the palace was not trying to cover up for William's alleged affair. This whole thing happened because Harry found out that Christian Jones and his partner were allegedly taking money from Dan Wooten to leak information about the Sussexes to cover up the alleged affair between William and Rose Henry. This is where all of this came from. This would never have happened it has snowballed into this crazy thing. And the funny thing with the judge sort of denying the summary judgment, and now this case goes to court, because if Harry says, okay, then let's go to court, then we can have Edward Young understand, we can have Clyde Alderman understand, we can have maybe, who knows, Christian Jones, all the way up till we find out all of this stuff. I mean, I don't know if that's all relevant to, but again, they were all part of the Sandringham Summit. They were all there. I mean, the Queen, obviously the Queen isn't there, but we can, I mean, if I don't know if Harry would want to go ahead with it. Is it a waste of time? But I would want all of them to understand if I had the money. I just to get facts out of them that you wouldn't ordinarily get. Who knows? We will see if Harry decides to, well, let's go for it and see. Let's see how the truth comes out about all of it. And then, hopefully if it gets Edward Young and the rest understand, that we can learn more about RAVEC and all of that stuff. So that'll be very interesting. We will see. Lydia says, well, that case would go on forever if they did that. Yeah, it sure would. And again, with all the other cases that Harry has, is it worth it? So I guess you have to decide, okay, I may not win this one, or I may not win it the way I want to, but is it worth it in terms of that, in light of the other cases that I'm also part of? And so who knows? Look, this one and the judicial review, if I were to choose, and again, for me, different, because, obviously I've not been hacked and all of that stuff that Harry was. But for me, the most interesting ones for me, Preddle, is this one, because I want to know the ins and outs of the RAVEC. I want to know the ins and outs of, that sending Harry that nasty letter to review, to take out Christian Jones' name from that letter before action. So those are things that I would want to know. And I would want them to put Edward Young on the stand to hear what he has to say. And so, yeah, but we'll see. Who knows? Harry might just be like, you know what? Let's go for it and see what comes out. Let's see. Lola says, I believe Harry has now come to this conclusion. He's fighting them in court because his noble character and expose the wickedness. This man, this does not mean Harry is going to run back. Well, no, obviously, no. Absolutely no. Yeah. Karen says, the monarch sending a message to the rest of the family. If they're thinking of leaving, this is what is going to happen to them. Stay and abuse or else. They are being scared into staying there. Well, the funny thing, there was this article, I'll talk about that, Karen. There was a funny article not funny article, but an article that one of the squaddies posted. I don't actually even know which news outlet it's from, but she posted screenshots of this article talking about William, like he has 5 points, I think it is, of how he is going to basically, when he rules, because of course that's the only thing William is thinking about now. He is not interested in really doing any of the things he claimed that is his life work. It's all about what he will be doing when King Charles basically kicked the bucket. And he seemed to be chomping at the bits for that to happen. Anyways, so one of his 5 points is that, one, he is going to simply focus on his family, the Waleses. So forget about all the others, because, we have others that are part of, even though they're not considered senior working royals, they're all part of the mix. So apparently one of William's is going to be focused simply on the Waleses, his immediate family. That's it. So kicking all the rest to the curb. And the focus is going to be, getting rid of the Commonwealth because it's outdated. Of course he is. He doesn't want to work. He's going to be cutting engagements. He's not going to be doing cutting the amount of engagements he does. And he's going to be cutting down on the patronages and something else. I don't even remember what the other thing is. But, I don't think any squad would be surprised because again, William William is one of, when they put out, I think today, who are the hardest working royals, and William is probably, I think, what, fourth from the last, and then Kate is probably third from the last, something like that. I don't remember what the whole thing is, but they weren't doing much in engagements anyway. And so now he's like, yeah, well, I'm cutting that down, and I'm cutting the patronages down, and we're getting rid of the Commonwealth. And I was like, well, of course you are, because nobody expected you to work. You've shown that you never want to work, so that's not shocking in any sense of the word. And I can only imagine those nations who are stupid enough to be part of this outdated institution anyway. I can only imagine what they're thinking today when they heard that bit. But again, William is his thing is, no, it's only going to be about my family. So in response to this, it's like, I think Charles is more, you have to stay here, and William is like, no, I'm kicking you out. So according to what he says, who knows what's going to happen when it is. More than likely, as he has caved and become more of a company man, they will groom him into that same model of, you cannot leave, or else. Who knows? He says now he's not going to be, and it's only going to be his family, but as he's been groomed into that monarchy way of thinking, they could groom him into this as well. So yeah, but for right now, it is that stay or else be abused kind of thing. Amazing. I don't know how they feel like they're gonna do that. It's like, this is a new world, right? And I don't think they've figured that out yet. So yeah. Michelle says, Miriam Makeba was banned from her own country for speaking out for human rights for Black people. They were trying to ban Harry from his country for speaking out against the British media and for protecting his wife. Well, I didn't realize that about Miriam Makeba. She's South African, right? Wow, I had no idea she was banned from her country. Wow. Is she now allowed to come back? Oh, I didn't realize that. But yeah, you're seeing this sort of thing happening more and more, especially in those quote unquote free speech countries like the US and the UK. Like, let's see. Yeah, look, it's very obvious what they're trying to do with Harry. And people are like, oh no, Harry needs to come back, and the king loves, he wants to spend time with his grandchildren. How dare he not come back? Charles don't want Harry in the UK. I mean, I don't know how many ways this man could state and what else he could do to make it very, very, very clear to everyone, including the Sussexes, that he does not want them in the UK. Charles has made that very clear with every action. You take away their funding, you take away their security, you take away the housing, his leaking negative stuff about them in the paper. I mean, the man hired a Daily Mail reporter or a Daily Mail editor to be his press secretary. I mean, all the stuff that is leaked out of how many times this man is going, and how many ways he's going to prove that he doesn't want the Sussexes there. Because why? They take away attention from him. Charles is all about attention. He's all about having the press and to get positive coverage from the press for himself. That is the only thing that matters to him. And if the Sussexes are there, even if they're visiting, it will take attention from him. He doesn't want them there. He doesn't want those babies. No matter how much the press try to make it. No, he doesn't. He does not. They are not about children. Neither he nor the Queen. At all. I don't remember what I was reading about. Even when George was a baby, they basically had to shame Charles into going to visit Prince William's first child, George. That Charles is not into children. So yeah, I don't know why people are trying to. He is not trying to have them there. And if they're there, he'll just stick the press on them as he would, hello, look at what, Byline Times are talking about, how they basically greenlit the press to attack them in every single way and anybody close to them. And that was very clear. And it seemed to still be very clear that they're still doing it. So, yeah. Dorothy says, explain to me why the king can't pay out of his pocket. Dorothy, that is too sane a question, I have to say. That is too sane. Now, I don't grudge anybody who wants to go kinging and queening about the world. Go king and queen. Do it all you want. But I have the same question as you, Dorothy. Why does taxpayers have to pay for them to king and queen? They have enough money to king and queen without the taxpayers' fund. This is exactly the problem. Why are people, especially a lot of poor people who could use that money, and a lot of organizations could use that money to help the poor, giving rich people more money? That is a age-old question. Let's see. Unbelievable. Diane says, I hope Harry keeps the case going on as long as there are options. The more the public knows about the bad acts of his family, the safer he is. He might not win court, but good for folks to hear. Yeah, that's my thinking as well. Because especially those of the, Princess Diana was only killed because her driver was drunk and all of that stuff. It's like people need to know, and that's the thing. The royal family's been able to operate in secret, and all of this stuff you would have never known. Even Harry would not have known. I mean, Harry was sitting there in a meeting. They're talking about RAVEC, and they're like, "Oh no, it's independent." He was in a meeting with them, and they're lying to his face that it's independent, and he's sitting there not knowing. I could only imagine the shock in Harry's face when he found out that the very people who are responsible for doing risk assessment and deciding on his security are the three horrible home secretary, private secretaries of the family. And it's just like, I could imagine the shock. And not even, the shock of knowing that they're on the board, but to know that they will sit in front of his face and lie to him to his face. And he talked about in Spare when I think it was the Bee who had come to visit him and Meghan, and they gave him rosé, and they talked about all the things that was happening and how what the press was doing and all of that stuff. And he's like, yeah, I realize it's really bad. I'm gonna, let me see what I can do, and then we could put our head together and figure out a solution. And then that man, in a meeting with the Queen, Harry said, yeah, this is what happened, and we told. And this man sat there, bold-faced, looking at the Queen and says, Your Majesty, we never heard about this. It's in Spare. That he was just sit there and right in front of Harry, bold-faced lie. I can only imagine, like, are you serious? So I think the more all of this stuff comes out and are public, then the better off everybody would be. Let's see. Joy says, if William doesn't care about his brother, he doesn't care about other members of the royal family. William trying. The CW is what his grandmother worked. Oh, the Commonwealth is what his grandmother worked so hard at. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Queen was all about the Commonwealth and all of that stuff. But again, look, in one way, I agree with him that the Commonwealth is outdated. The Commonwealth is a ridiculous organization. It is absolutely ridiculous. And as what is it? I think is Ion who gave this blunt assessment of the Commonwealth said it is that whole thing is a disgrace. It's gaslighting people. One, because the wealth isn't common. They have nothing in common, especially with the people who are supposedly running or head of the Commonwealth. One, they claim it's not hereditary. But the head of the Commonwealth has been the Queen's grandfather, the Queen, and now Charles. And now it's supposedly, if William allows it, going to be William. And that, yeah, they on their side would be, no, it's not a hereditary position. No, it's not. And then you're in this, then they're talking about, oh, we have common goals and we have common dreams and our common connection. The only thing you have in common is colonialism. It's like, these are the people that you were doing all that evil to and stole their wealth and all of that stuff. It's ridiculous. So it just, yeah, I mean, on one hand, I agree in that he has no business being head of Commonwealth, and this whole organization needs to go away, frankly. Because it's nonsense. None of it makes sense. And it does nothing for anybody or people who are part of these countries, who are, citizens of these countries who are supposedly part of the Commonwealth. It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Let's see. So William, especially what happened in the last shameless offensive tour, I don't think William wants to have anything to do with that. Plus, then he's going to have to deal with a bunch of black and brown people. William hasn't shown that he has any real interest in any of that. So I don't, it's better that he has nothing to do with it. So, let's see. Joy says this is why the Queen and Prince Philip held on so long, because they knew Charles and Willie would blow everything up. Of course, so many people have said that, especially the Queen. She's like, I'm gonna die on this throne because I don't trust the rest of y'all to do it. Even if she had no power, at least her name publicly, people would respect it. She knew. She absolutely knew. And Diana said the same. She's like, I don't think, they weren't wrong. So yeah. Let's see. What else I have on this thing? Hang on one second. Let's see. Okay. So we'll get to that in a second. We'll stay on this for a bit. Bit more, couple more minutes. Let's see if I get. Karen Warner says William is waiting for revenge on the Sussexes because he didn't get the chance to control them, so he is not going to get over this rage against them as long as he don't get his satisfaction. And I truly believe that too. Yeah, I think William, instead of getting help, his whole thing seems to be revenge on the Sussexes. And it's just like, dude, that's why you're not accomplishing anything. Maybe focus on accomplishing stuff. That might be a better option. But yeah, And if it's different, real life is different, he definitely isn't correcting the press narrative that is supposedly, those friends of the prince keep talking to the press. He's not correcting the narrative that he's not out for revenge and he's enraged all the time. He has done nothing to correct that narrative because apparently that's a good thing. So... yeah, he's on this invisible competition with the Sussexes that is like, dude, maybe try to accomplish something. So yeah. Let's see. Scrolling way up. Karen, I think you're it, Karen. Karen, I think you're it today. She says, Prince Harry has to challenge the tabloids when they do things like win or lose, so the rest of the world know their behavior, not they are their behavior, not they're not going to. Oh, if not, they're not going to stop. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly why he filed that libel suit. Win or lose, he at least raises it and puts it out there. So yeah, and again, it's all of this stuff is so that there's legal and there is lasting evidence of what happened with him, so that going forward, when Archie and Lily grow up, they don't have to wonder what their parents did. They don't have to wonder. It's there, right there in front of them, legal documents saying exactly what happened. So, which is really, really smart, because with Diana, so many things are left to royal reporters and we know how they lie. They could just make up anything, to the point where I can never forget where, what's her name, Jenny Bond made up this ridiculous story about Diana telling her that she welcomed Camilla, and how Camilla is earned the respect, or some kind of stupidness like that nobody believed. I mean, for her to get to that point to lie like that, is like they would lie about anything. So yeah, and I'm so happy people shut down that nonsense. It's like, you really think people would believe that? No. So let's see. Going down for a few more before we get to the end. Rhonda says, all that rage may cause blood vessel to burst. Willie better chill out because before he causes a stroke. And again, whether it's the press and his so-called friends are constantly thinking that's a good look and saying that, and I mean, we do know he has a rage issue, because the people write about it all the time. But yeah, he needs to get help. And again, it's the one thing he is not getting, is the help for his anger issues. So yeah, because again, they seem to think it's a good look for him. So Veronica Jade says, I am afraid the harassment of Meghan is never going to stop, because William is so jealous of Harry and Meghan. I think the harassment it will stop if we stop in engaging with it, because they're not going to put things out there. The press is not going to put things out there that people are not engaging with it. Why? Because they don't make money off of it. Is a reason why they don't ever talk about Sophie and Edward. Is a reason why they don't talk about, Princess Anne with all the good work she apparently does. Is a reason why they very, maybe sometimes when they do something sort of, quirky or whatever, they'll talk about the other royals. Is a reason why we don't hear about Peter Phillips and stuff. Why? Nobody is interested. Nobody engages when they write articles about them. Nobody engages. And so they stop. The same principle applies. If no one engaged when they write about the Sussexes, they will stop. Why? Because they don't make money from it. They're only going to put things there that they make money. So whether it's the squad engaging when they write something stupid, and the squad engaging in like, oh, well, how dare you say this about the Sussexes, or they do the stupid comparison with Kate, and we're like, don't you dare compare our faves, and then we start posting all this stuff, to try to prove that Meghan is better than Kate, or whatever ways that we engage. When we stop, they will stop. That's just it. It's it's one of those businesses, like if the demand is there for this narrative, they will provide it. That's how it works. And so that's one of the reasons for me, if you notice, I don't use paparazzi photos. I don't do when people are out on their private time. I do not use it, because I understand this concept. It works in all situations, whether it's in Montecito or wherever. That's the thing. When we stop engaging, they stop making money. So yes, they put it out there, but the onus is on us to stop. And as long as we keep going, it'll keep going. So the harassment of Meghan, if we're engaging with it, then we bear some of the responsibility of why it's still there. So yeah. Let's see. Lola says, I believe Harry's now fully awake and he's moving like a stealth bomber. They don't know his moves. He's like David fighting Goliath. Oh, I like that. He's fighting for Archie and Lily. And I love that. I love Harry just moving in private. He doesn't need to show anything. And if he's not ready to, and only show stuff that he wants to show when he wants to show it. And I like that. I like that. So yeah, he definitely have learned the stealth way of doing things. And so it's cool. Very, very cool. We see them when they want us to see them. And may that always be the case. So yeah. Anyway, so moving on to, I always say real world, as if that's not real world. That is real world. But there are also other real things happening. As we know, I've been really talking a lot about what's going on in Palestine. And one of the things that's been happening is just there's so many people that in Palestine that the Israeli government has been targeting, has been educated people who are prominent in education, journalists, medicine, bombing hospitals, schools, you know, legal, anything legal, like you know, courthouses. I mean, they have been targeting anything of prominence and people of prominence in Palestine. It is very targeted, it's very specific, it is not an accident, it is very clear that what they're targeting. And one of the people they've targeted is Professor Rifat Al-Arir. And I had not heard about him, as I, you know, we was talking about the other day. So many of these people I hadn't heard about, and sadly, I'd not heard about them until they passed away. So he is a very, very prominent, or at least was a very, very prominent person in Palestine, speaking out for Palestinian rights and making sure, and you know, spreading it around the world. And you know, as you see, the bottom right picture is him doing a TED talk. He was a writer, a poet, and you know, an activist for Palestinian rights. And there's this woman on Twitter. She has very prominent, I think she has over 1 million followers. And so he responded to someone's tweet, I guess in a sort of in jest in someone's tweet, very ironic, which I guess she took literally. And she basically put a target on his back, you know, basically sent her 1 million followers to target him. So they started targeting him on Twitter. And obviously that got, I guess, the attention of Israeli forces. And they, right before, I think the day before they killed him, he had posted that someone from the Israeli army had called him, and it terrified him. So he left where he was staying and, you know, went, and he was staying with his sister, her husband, I think his sister, his brother, and her 4 kids. And the next day they targeted him and killed his whole family. And it's just been so, I mean, with all the things that, you know, has happened, it's just been one of those jarring things that you're like, wow, you saw it play out, and it's like, you know, it happened. You almost can't believe it happened, but it happened. And all of this is happening right when the US voted against a ceasefire, the only nation of all, 100 and something nations voting no against the ceasefire. The only other nation to sort of decline was the UK, who abstained. And it's been really, really sick to watch. But as you can see here, Mohammed Shihada wrote about it. It says, Israeli professor Rifat Al-Arir, one of Gaza's most prominent writer, poets, and activists, who spent his life trying to get Gaza's voice to the outside world. He was killed in a targeted airstrike on his sister's house that also killed his brother, sister, and her 4 kids. And so he had he's again a poet. He had posted this poem, and it's so wild that, again, I didn't know about him until right before, and then all of a sudden he died, he was killed, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And so as after he died, I then realized how famous he was, and like all of these people around the world knew about this man. And yesterday I was at a protest here in New York, in my old neighborhood, and they were reading the poem, and I was like, oh my gosh, all these people knew about it, and I had no idea. Again, I had not heard about him until right before, and then, you know, what was like a day before or something like that, and then, you know, the next day he was killed. And so this is the poem he wrote. And you know, people are making all kind of videos with the poem and reading out the poem in protests and stuff like that. It says, if I must die, you must live, to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, made with white with long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaits his dad who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even his flesh, not even to himself. See the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment as an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale. And so people have been reading this poem all over, and it's just like, in memory of him and all the others who are, as we speak, are dying. As we speak, every 15 minutes, a child dies in Palestine. And it's been a very jarring thing to see, like, and then realizing how far back, and all these people back in the day talking about, Malcolm X and all of them talking about the plight of the Palestinian. And it made me feel so like, wow, all of this was going on and I had no idea. I was completely oblivious all of these years to the plight of these men, women, and children. And it's just, but my prayer is that it'll end soon, that they can pick up it. I don't know how they will, because again, all the infrastructure Israel is basically destroying. And so I don't know how you move forward. I don't know how they pick up. But if I know anything, and seeing the spirit of the Palestinian people, they will. I mean, you can't, there's a spirit. I mean, when I see children sitting among the rubbles, 4 or 5 little boys sitting around the rubble, building a fire and trying to make food, building a fire, little kids building a fire and just so excited to participate in it and laughing, and they're sitting among the rubble of their burnt out house. I'm like, you know what? They give me hope that they're going to be, they're going to get through this, and they're going to fight back, and they're going to, it just, you can't kill that kind of spirit. No matter how you try, you cannot kill that kind of spirit. So, my thing is Palestine, it will be free. So, yeah. Okay. Miriam Makeba is dead years ago. Okay, I did not know that. So thank you so much for that. I did not realize she passed away. So thank you. That the first time I heard about Miriam Makeba is when a friend of mine was doing a one-act play, and she was doing some songs of hers. And so that was the first time I heard about Miriam Makeba. So I didn't know that she passed away. So thank you so much for that. For that bit of information and for that education. So thank you. Yeah. I think the song that my friend was using was her song. I think it was called Pata Pata or something like that. Pata. I don't remember. Yeah. So that was the only time then, and I other than that, I hadn't heard about her again. So yeah. So thank you, Mia Sylvester. So as you can see, there are a lot of things I didn't know that I'm having to learn now. So it's like, it's better late than never, right? So yeah. Black Queen says they murdered this man and his family for standing up for what is right. Soon Israel forget their annihilation under the Nazi government, Germany, and the UN, the US, and the entire world watching it happen without protest. Shame. Well, not without protest. I mean, there's protests all over the world, but the US doesn't care. And it was very evident and it's so funny, we've been tweeting about this the last few days, is watching the US be the only country to say no to a ceasefire when everyone else wants that ceasefire, and the UK abstaining. It was just the arrogance of the deputy ambassador. It was everything about him was so arrogant. And not only that, when there is video of him when I think he looked like he had already voted, and then the ambassador for Palestine started speaking. Instead of paying attention, this man was on his phone. And it was just like, wow. And it's not just him, is watching him and Linda, I think Linda Thomas Green, I think her name is, she's the US ambassador to the UN. In all the other ceasefire, when it came up for ceasefire votes, she's been the one. And it's been very interesting and jarring to watch Black people allow themselves to be the face of continuing this genocide against brown people. It's very, very jarring to see. And it's just I'm telling you, this man was so arrogant. I was just like, oh my gosh. So now he is the face. Anywhere on Twitter you find it, he is the face of the United States arrogance and callousness about what's going on, about the genocide in Palestine. It's it's just like, yeah. People all over the world are protesting. I know London had another huge protest yesterday. There's been protests all over New York. There are protests literally all over the world. People have been protesting since October. And the United States, don't be surprised when you notice how they did a ceasefire for Thanksgiving. So people, so Americans don't think about the fact that our government is bombing people on Thanksgiving. Don't be surprised if the next one come at Christmas. Because of course we don't want Americans thinking that that our government is evil around Christmas. So don't be surprised. And then they'll continue. And so it's just, please pray for Palestine. And I pray that, I look forward to them being free, because I feel like if I had it my way, I would just scoop them up and, get them into a place where they do not have to live next door to Israel. I'm like, I don't know how you survive living next door. Like, I don't even know how anyone wants to. The behavior of these people, like, I never knew was possible. I did not know there were people like this in the world. I literally did not know. And I feel like every single video I see is like, oh my gosh, I wish I did not see. The behavior, and again, going back to those chosen people. That's why, it's so important, especially on smaller areas when you have kids, you don't pick favorites. That's one of the reasons I'm always against those, oh, this is my favorite child. I was like, that is the worst thing you could do for a child to think they're favorites. We see it play out in the royal family. That favorite thing. We have William. These are small examples. But when you look at it on the bigger level, you have an Israel. And it's like, I just did not know people. In the year of the Lord 2023, I have never seen things I've seen in the last 2 months. I have been like, I'm at this point where I'm beyond shock. I just, so yeah. Anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. That's it. That's the thing. That's all I got. Oh, yeah, finally. I was talking about this the other day. And and I was mentioning that we don't have like the Santa, because I think Karen was talking about what their Christmas is like. And they have all this stuff in Canada, and it's like this Santa thing. And I was mentioning we have the Santa thing. Like every year we have all these people in New York dressed in Santa Claus outfits. And this is the good part. This is when it starts. They all get together and I think have a great time. But at the end of the day, you have a whole bunch of drunk Santas. They go and hit all the bars. And there are some bars that literally close down because they want to have nothing to do with this. And you have a bunch of drunk Santas running around Manhattan. And so this was them a few days ago. And everybody in Santa outfit. And yeah, it's just like, oh. And they just are all around the city in their Santa outfit getting drunk, a lot of them. So yeah, so this is this is New York's Santa. Yeah, but anyway, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope this podcast made sense. I don't even know if it did or not, but hopefully it did. Thank you to all our wonderful moderators for. Wait a minute, I didn't even see Trish Nelly today, did I? Trish Nelly, you here? Did I just miss you? I didn't think I saw her. But anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. And our awesome moderators, thank you. And to our awesome 2 Cents crew who support the channel, and all of you who support in um in the chat, whether it's donation. Oh my gosh, I think I missed this. Diane Hawkins, 13 months. Thank you, Diane. 13 months as a 2 cents crew member. Thank you. She says the struggle continues on many fronts. We must continue praying for the strength to endure. Oh, how perfect is this? How perfect is this to end on? Thank you for your positivity, Diane. I could go off on all the negative stuff. So thank you for ending this in a positive light. Have a fantastic day, everyone. I love you all. And I shall chat with you next time. Bye.